I apologize. Okay, so now, so this is the uh, so this is the basic website that we are following. I'll send you a link of it, so you can all use this for reference. Sorry. So what happened? Okay, so let's look at the first example. Okay, you know what? No man. So let's actually go in and build an example. Okay, so let's build it all together. Let's say test service dot php. Okay, so obviously the first thing is going to be um, building the or starting the server. Okay, again server here is not a is not something physical, or for that matter it's not even logical. It is just a piece of code, that's it. Okay, it is, we are just building a basic application and we are calling it server because it will allow us to host our data. Okay, so it is soup server. Before that we'll also need, so what is the difference between require and require once? uh, Guys, anybody, what is the difference between require and require once?
Require must be in whatever you are doing it, and
Say it again.
require if I mean if you're making website, there is if you there is a requirement, it means it has to be in it.
Okay.
Like we gonna make it that way, that the stuff should be in that.
Okay.
And required may not be in it, but if it's in it, then it will be great.
No. Pooja, do you have an answer? I just lost my audio. Pooja, did you, like, do you have an answer? Or did you give me an answer?
Yes, I
Yeah, so I was asking what is the difference between require and requirements?
require and requirements.
No, I was asking what is difference between require and require once.
Oh, require once. I don't know the difference.
So this is one, and there is another one thing called require
Oh,
once.
I'm sorry, I, I messed up. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Okay, requirements. Okay,
So
sorry.
yeah, do you want to tell me now, Mangal?
Yeah, require ones is it's probably a file or directory which we gonna use it for one time, so it will load. I mean, like it will load for one event, and then it won't need it, so it won't like save the space. And the require must be for this file, you need this file to load it first, so it will be in the memory, so whatever you want to use it from that file, you don't have to like go to that file and have that in your database or however you want to do it.
Okay, small correction. Everything's fine. Okay, there's only one small correction. uh, Require once only loads the file once, as it says. Okay, require would load as many times as the call is made, that's it. Okay, both of them are just function calls, right? So this one would only load the file once, or only hold the file once in the memory, while require would load as many times you ask for. Okay, simple. And the first answer that you gave was the difference between include and require. Include will give us a warning if the file doesn't exist, while require would give us an error. Okay, so one other thing, uh, see, these are common questions. Okay, so what I would suggest is to have what is it, a little clarity. I mean, yeah, Munjal, it's all right. This is where we begin again. This is how we begin, obviously. So, but from here on, make sure that uh,
Okay, I
your
was just coming from the car to home, so I didn't even hear what the context was. So, yeah.
okay, okay. So let's continue with the session. So now we have the NUSAP library. We have the SOAP server. All we'll have to do is we'll have to uh, okay. So let me write it down. Once we have the server, okay, we'll have to expose a method. Okay, once we expose a method, we'll have to host the service or the server. Okay, so this is pretty much it. Nothing more. The other things are configuring a what is it? Configure configure a WSDL file. Okay, or auto generate a WSDL file. Okay, we'll actually do the WSDL part in a bit, but first let's just expose the method. Okay, and then host the server. Okay, so let's print out a basic hello world string. Okay, we would say echo hello world, nothing complex. Okay, so once we have the method, we'll have to host the or add this method to the server. So let's see what is the call for that. Yeah, so the call for that is register. Okay, simple enough. So we'll say oops, register is equal to, or register will given the method name. Okay, there are multiple methods, we'll use an array. So at that point it would be like array of, okay, test west, I mean west being the other one, or let's say test2. Okay, assuming that test2 is the second function. Since we only have one function, we need not use an array. So what is the difference between a variable and an array?
Are you serious about this question?
Yeah.
Okay. Variable is a single variable with, and array is a array of variables, obviously.
But what is a variable and what is an array? I mean, when you say array is a variable, list of arrays or consists of more than one variables. So I mean, honestly, see, these are the basic questions that people will ask you at the beginning. Trust me. Uh, don't expect for like a very big question as in what is the difference between an abstract class and an interface. People wouldn't, that wouldn't be the first question. People will always begin by testing your basics. So yeah, I mean, if not now, for a later point, take that question, go back and have an answer. But if somebody asks you what is a variable, I would say that it is going to be a storage location for a
To
single
store it
value
located. Okay, yeah.
at a point, and given that it's a variable, you can keep updating the value whenever you want. The see, that is the power of PHP. Okay, there are other languages where strings, for example, are immutable. When I say immutable, you cannot actually change the value. So if you say $x is equal to high, and in the second line if you say dollar uh, So don't be surprised if somebody asks you this question. So this is the first thing, $x is equal to I there. Okay, at this, see, in PHP strings are mutable. Okay, so the memory ID of this one is equal to memory ID of this one. Okay, but in other languages, say Python or even Java, no, not Java, yes, I'm sure about Python. So in Python, okay, these two would be different variables. Okay, the reason for that is strings are immutable. So a variable in PHP is, you can assign as many values as you can, but it can only hold one value at a time. If somebody asks you for an array is a list of elements or a list of values. Okay, so that would be single dimensional. There are again associative arrays, which would be a list or a collection of key value pairs. Okay, uh, yeah.
While we are at this, static and non-static is one concern I have.
So there is nothing called non-static. There is only something called static.
Yeah.
So okay, so assume that this is a class. Let's say class C1. Okay, so there are two things. The first thing is an instance method, and then there's a static method. Okay, so now static method is going to be uh, public static function test. Okay, while an instance method would be public function test. You cannot do this in PHP, so you'll have to do test2. The reason for that is we cannot overload functions in PHP. So I mean, if you all are familiar with Java or C sharp, in C sharp, what you can do is you can do something like this. But given that, you'll have to make sure that the signature is different. But yeah, so here this is a static method, while test is going to be a an instance method. The reason being, I mean, first let's look at how it is accessed, then we can look at, then we'll talk about why do we need a static method. Okay, the first reason that we would, or like the way we access this method, okay, if it is inside the class, okay, we can use dollar this, okay, and we'll say test2. Okay, to access a static method, we'll have to use C1 test. Okay, so these are the, this is the way you would actually access a instance method and a static method. Now why do you need static methods versus why do you need instance methods? Okay, so when you are working with a static method, uh, or let's go the other way, for an instance method, this is
I think
always,
variables also can be static, right? Is it?
yeah,
Or only?
of course,
Yeah.
but again, I have seldom used uh, static variables. uh, the reason for that is, so the concept of static is saying that this value belongs to the class. Okay, while say so I mean, I guess you're talking about this part. Okay, so when you say static dollar v1 and then you just say public dollar v1 or v2. Okay, so this is again a property of an instance. Okay, while this one is a property of the class. Okay, so when somebody wants to set, or let's say this one, first name. Okay, first name would be specific to an instance, while class name will never change, would be specific to a class. Okay, so seldom do people use static variables for this one. I would rather use a private variable. I mean, I don't see a reason why I would need a static variable, at least in PHP. Okay, while for methods, again it's the same concept. Okay, if we are taking instance information and we are making something of the instance information that has to go back to the instance or is specific to the instance. Okay, at that point it is going to be uh, it is going to be an instance method like test2. But if we are working with connections, okay, this would actually come at a later point, but you'll hear me say something about a design pattern called singleton. Okay, so in singleton pattern what we would say is there should only be a single connection that is available for a uh, for one request. Okay, so at that point what we'll do is we'll actually either make it private or we'll make it static, so that either a class, okay, or a base class can handle it. But I mean, honestly, these would actually come in once we get into design patterns. So if you all have any questions about this part, go ahead and ask me. But if you all want to know, have a very good knowledge of the design patterns and static information, that should probably come at a later point. But yeah, I mean, the most important things, there are two things. The way you access them would be an instance method would be either via object or via the this parameter or the this property. The static variables will be accessed by the class colon colon operator. Okay, yeah, so are there any questions about
No.
static? Okay, do you at least have a basic like, do you understand why you would have to use a static function against an instance function?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So one thing to keep in mind again is most of the object oriented stuff is pretty much taken from Java. Okay, so this might make a lot of sense in a real object oriented programming language, but this might not make complete sense in PHP, at least not until PHP 5.4, where you all would be working with trades and generators and all that fancy stuff. That is where you'll actually use a lot of these fancy static stuff and all that other magic. Okay, but these days I guess even me, so if I do PHP minus v, yeah, so my version is 5.3 and most of the people are looking for 5.3 developers, PHP 5.3. Okay, and if you all have any exposure to 5.4 or 5.5 in PHP, then you're a hotcake. So one thing probably would also be to take a look at PHP 5.3 versus PHP 5.4 versus PHP 5.5 and so on. Probably go step by step. Okay, but yeah, NetTuts is a very good tutorial. I follow these on a regular basis. Uh, so this pretty much gives you all a basic idea of what is new in 5.4. Yeah, so this one fear traits is a new concept that again has been borrowed either from Python or from Java. Okay, um, so again they're similar to what is it, they're similar to interfaces, but we can actually define data. Okay, so I mean that is the good thing about traits, and just like interfaces we can actually use multiple interfaces. Okay, and once we use these interfaces or the traits, we have access to all the information, say like look at this. Okay, so that is what a trait is. Okay, and then so it has a built-in CLI web server which is not really required, but it's a good to know. And then see, this is the other thing that I've actually I kind of like it, but one thing that scares me is that PHP is going away from PHP and it's becoming a wannabe Python language, because this is a list in Python. Okay, this is a list in Python, and then so this is the way you will have to use an associative array or build an associative array in PHP. Before it was like this, where you would say key and then value. Well, here we are directly giving them in here, and probably this is the best part. Or after traits, there's something that I really like. Before 5.4, we cannot dereference without giving this to a variable, but now we can dynamically dereference it. So yeah, I mean, again, go through this. Do you all watch Game of Thrones? Anybody? Okay, no mind. I always digress. So this guy is Edward Stark in Game of Thrones. Oh, sorry. So yeah, go through this. It's always it is always pretty good. It's always good to know uh, the fun stuff about 5.4 and 5.5, and it also tells people that you're interested in learning and trying new stuff, which is always going to be a plus. I'm afraid I don't know how we got into the OOP part from here.
Static.
Static. Why did we get to static though?
I asked.
Ah, there we go. Okay. I always make it a point to understand what is the point of origination for my digression, and I'm glad that we found it. Okay, so now what we've done is we have built in a function. We have registered that function. The last thing to do is we'll have to expose the data. And an interesting but weird way of exposing data, okay, is via the post uh, property or the post super global. Okay, we can either use this, okay, where we would say $http raw post data, or I mean, my preferred way of doing it is via globals. Okay, given that excuse me, $http raw post data is not technically a global, so we should go this route. We should take this route to send in the data. So we'll say HTTP raw post data. Okay, so we'll say, sorry, dollar. See, is it dollar globals or dollar underscore globals? I always get confused. Dollar.
It is dollar globals.
It's dollar globals, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So in the dollar globals, let me quickly. So this is the HTTP raw post data variable that I'm using. Okay. So what it does is uh, it contains the raw post data, and given that in the first in the first instance that will be empty, we are building the post information. Okay. So, but what I'm looking for is this guy. So let me quickly look for all the options that are available, and it's not available. HTTP. Oh, I didn't know it was match. It matches case. Huh. See, do you all see this? I mean, I cannot match http underscore raw for some reason. Even if I match the case, I'm not able to match it. Okay, so it's a Firefox bug. But yeah, so it should be something like this. Okay, so it has to be dollar globals and it's http raw post data. Okay, if it is empty,
I don't know if it's a dumb question, but what did you just do here?
where?
Here, you set HTTP raw underscore post data to be global.
No.
Then what is?
Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm looking for HTTP raw post data in the globals variable. Now the question would be, why am I looking for HTTP raw post data inside globals? Okay, so this would actually contain the post information that is coming in and going out. Okay,
Okay.
during the first request it is going to be empty, fair enough, but after that what I would do, or what SOAP server advises us to do, is to fill this information and register this information into the server when we are hosting the service. Okay, let's see how it is done. Okay, here all we would do is we would actually give in the service and we would send in this information via post. Okay, by doing that what we are saying is, this is the uh, so there are three things. Okay, so probably these would help. This is not technically applied in all languages, so when we are working with a web service we would have to look at three things. Okay, ABC: address, binding, and contract. Okay, so address is obviously the address in which, I mean, or address at which the service is hosted. Binding is something where we would, or how we would host the information. Okay, so is it via SOAP, or is it via TCP, is it via REST? Okay, so that is the binding. The contract is going to be the contract, at least in PHP, refers to this part, which is the service. Okay, so the service is going to be the contract. The so the URL that is generated by this object, okay, is going to be the address, and the binding is going to be SOAP. And the reason for that is we are using the SOAP server. uh, does that clear your question, or does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, so again like I said, you have to understand the business aspect of it. Okay, not just you, everybody, because see, the code already exists on the internet. All you'll have to do is you just have to understand why are we doing it. Okay, so if you understand why and where to apply it, how is already is on the internet. Okay, so don't worry about the how part. Okay, so now what we'll do is let's just run this file. Oh, even before we run it, we'll have to host the service. Okay, the way we would host this, we just say we would just pass in the post information into uh, into the service. Okay, and this should technically host the information. And here, let's see if we can get some information from here. Okay, let's var dump it and see what is the information that we'll get. Okay, so we'll spread it vertically. So sudo bash, we'll say cd var shining soap. Okay, so we'll have to let's take one step back. Let's say chown minus r. We need not do this, but it's good if you do it. on soup. Okay, cd soup. This is a PHP test service. So now it's hanging. Okay, and interestingly, it failed on require. So it looks like, okay, it looks like, oh yeah, it was supposed to be NUSAP, so it did not find the file. Fair enough. So it has to be NUSOAP. See, because this is the folder that holds the library. So we'll say NUSCD NUSOP, and then we'll say lib, which is right, and inside the lib we have the nusop.php file, which is right. So now we have modified the service again. Let's run test service, and it says undefined index server underscore name. Where is that? Okay, it's saying that something's missing. On line 4437 of nusop.php file. So probably it's something that we did not pass in. This service does not provide a web description, and it's spitting out a null. Okay, so let's copy this in here, or this guy, and let's put it on Google. Okay, so now let's take this part out. Before that, let's see. I mean, I'm a little confused to why would you have to pass in server name. You must specify name when you register an operation. Okay. Hmm. Okay, so it looks like the example that we have here is not 100% right. So what I'll have to do is I'll look at this example tonight, and I'll either send it over to you all if it is simple enough via mail, or if not, the first thing that we'll do on Saturday is going to be going over this example, and then we'll write a basic SOAP client to consume this information. In the meantime, what I would suggest is go ahead and practice most of, or like what is left, and again on Saturday and Sunday again, let's have these random questions that I'll keep asking you all. So if you all get a chance, be prepared for it. uh, at some point you all would have to go through these questions, so it better be now rather than at a later point, right? In the meantime, do you all have any questions?
I probably just didn't hear properly. What did you say? What we can have on Saturday?
Yeah, so here what happened is, when I yeah, not here but here, so when I executed this file, okay, I'm actually getting an error saying that that the server underscore name is not available, but that is normally provided by the globals variable. Okay, so if that is not there, then either it is being overridden by something else or something is not right. Or talking about it, I guess I know why. So let's actually run it via browser and see if that makes a difference. Because server name has to come from the browser. Let's see if that was the issue. So we'll say soap. It was test service. Jesus. Yeah, test service.php. Service.php. Okay, that doesn't. Okay, it at least doesn't give us this error, which was about server name. Okay, so all it says is this service does not provide a web description. Now I'm not sure what it means by web description. So yeah, to solve this warning, okay, it's technically not a warning, but yeah, to solve this, I'll probably work on it tonight, and we can go through it on Saturday. And at the same time, once you have the web service working, we'll also what is it? Write a SOAP client to ingest this data. In the meantime, what I was asking was, you all should prepare uh, as much as you can, or even continue with the project that you're working on, and at the same time, keep revisiting what has already been done. Because again, on Saturday and on Sunday, I'll keep asking you all random questions. Uh, and I mean, who knows? Those might be the questions that you'll get in an interview. So it's good to be prepared.
All right, Sai.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
So I'll see you all on
Sounds good. Thank you.
Saturday, 1 p.m.
Bye.
Yep.
See you. Good night.
Good night.